Hi everyone. Today I have with me Nina Starsong, which you will know her from the roundtables that I've done. She's been on the Divine Feminine roundtables with me. Lovely Nina. Hi Nina.
Hi. Thank
And
you for having me.
I also have with me Lyndol Descant. Now, both these ladies I've asked to join me today because this just organically came together really. We're going to talk about music, toning, sound, how important it is for healing, for DNA activation, for ascension, and that's basically the topic of this discussion, but all these discussions move in such organic ways that we never know what we're going to actually say before we start speaking. But this is a really powerful subject because we are looking here at creating new earth, moving into ascension, moving into our own sovereignty and finding balance and finding healing. And we are in an incredibly challenging time right now. So we need to find ways to be able to navigate through this time right now. So sound, music and chanting is incredibly important. And I'm sure many will agree. What I'd like to say about Lyndol is Lyndol contacted myself and my husband quite a while ago and offered us a beautiful piece of music, an original piece of music that she had created just for me to use in my videos. The piece of music is called Fairy Jam, and it's absolutely my most favorite piece of music that is a backing track to any of my videos. So I started making videos in 2008. They've all got backing music, and Fairy Jam is my absolute favorite. It's so beautiful, and that is, for me, deeply activating, and it just takes me into the 0 point bliss field every time I hear it. So that piece of music is the backing track to Unicorn Dreams, Conscious Catalyst into Crystalline, which was uploaded in 2017. It's the backing track to Ostara Blessings, Song for the Equinox, which was uploaded in 2018. And it's the backing for Magical Spell Incantation, Sacred Song for the Solstice and Eclipse, which was uploaded last month in June 2020. And I will be, without a doubt, using it again because it's just so beautiful. So welcome, both of you. Welcome to our little round table chat, the three of us, this little sacred musical trinity. Lovely to have you both here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So I think my first question to you both, obviously I'd like to ask you both how you sort of got started in the world of music, the world of sound, the world of toning. I mean, were you born into that? How did this call you? How did the path of music and sound call you? You can answer that in whichever way you want to. I'd also like to just mention before you move into answering that question, and I'd like you to talk about this as well. So as I was saying to you before we started recording, my connection with music isn't necessarily my ultimate focus. I've always been, since a child, very much following the path of words and language, with drama and English and sounds and reading and writing. And obviously that's my path now, being a channel and working with the vibration that I bring forward as words. So music has been a secondary thing to me really, and never really my focus, but it's in my life because of my father. My father was an opera singer. He was an opera singer by profession. He sang with the Sadler's Wells Opera Company here in England. When I was born, he was with the opera company, the Sadler's Wells. He was a tenor. And when my mother was pregnant, he would sing. And because he was a tenor, he was very powerful. If you've ever heard Mario Lanza sing, the operatic singer Mario Lanza, he sounded just like him. And when he sang full on, and he was always walking around the house practicing. He passed away a couple of years ago, sadly, but music and opera and singing was his passion right till his very last day. And I was playing Mario Lanza to him, and I was with him, just me and him, when he passed away, and I was playing his beloved Mario Lanza to him, and they were all the songs that he sang, because he would sing when he left Sadler's Wells. He went on the cruise ships, and he did Mario Lanza covers. So he sang all Mario Lanza's music. When my mother was pregnant, he would sing to her tummy So I was having opera being sung to me before I was born, and then that continued when I was a baby. Sometimes when I was really crying, my mum would have to get my dad and he would just blast out an opera song and I'd fall asleep. And I grew up around the theatre, around the opera company, and my father burst into song every single day of my life. So I grew up until my mother and father split up, and then I saw him obviously in more intermittent times. But for the first 7 years, those years when you are an impressionable young child, I'm being DNA activated on a daily basis by my father, but I didn't know that back then. Obviously, I now know now. So my two questions to you both would be, how did you get started? How did you get brought into the world of music? And two, about my father and me being a channel and someone who's bringing messages forward from, you know, this higher divine light source, these higher consciousness beings. Do you think my father being a singer was no accident? Do you think that I was activated by him? And how would that have worked? Him singing opera and me being a baby, how would that have worked? And how can others move into that as an activation for themselves and their own children? So who would like to go first? No. No.
Nina, would you like to?
Yeah. Nina, would you like to answer that first? Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So I love those questions. Those are great questions. I started singing organically. I would actually wake up as a really little, like I was really young, probably maybe in my like 4 or 5, you know, just starting when you're just starting to kind of talk and communicate. And I would wake up at 6 a.m. with the birds, apparently, according to my mother. And as the birds would start singing, waking up the whole world, I would start singing with them. And so this was something that I just organically did, that nobody taught me. It was just something that my soul knew to do. And of course, this was not the most welcome thing in my household, because everyone was getting the alarm wake up call from Nina and the birds just as the sun was coming up. So I was kind of gently asked to stop doing that. And that is a bit of a trauma. And so I think it's important that people understand that it's possible that they too were told to be quiet. And when that happens, although your parents didn't mean to, or your mother wasn't trying to traumatize you, or my mother most certainly was not trying to traumatize me. She's one of my biggest support systems and advocates, and I love her dearly. She just wanted to sleep a bit later. And I can completely understand that. So I also had a lot of dreams as a child. I still do, but I would always dream that I had come from this place and that I would sing. And when I would sing, I would be painting with my voice with sound and light, and that these realms were of sound and light. And it was very connected to the birds. It was connected to the angels. It was connected to the fairies and the pixies and the unicorns and the mermaids. And so I always felt like, oh, I'm this magical being that has come here to sing. And when I sing, I help to bring through love on the planet. So I felt this way as a child. And my grandmother recognized the talent in my voice. So she actually took me to have my voice assessed by a professional when I was a little girl. And the woman listened to me and she said, oh, she's really naturally talented, but you wouldn't start vocal traditional lessons with her until she's older, but she's highly gifted. She has like perfect pitch and she understands the different octaves. And so these were gifts that I came in with. They were not taught. And the interesting thing is that nobody else before me and my sister also is gifted musically. So before my sister and I, we don't have this family history of musical gifting. We were really the only ones. I mean, a few people in my family might sing now and then, but it's very interesting because it didn't come through my mother or my father, for example. So just as a side note, this beautiful woman just had her 100th birthday yesterday. The woman that assessed my voice. I hadn't seen her in years. And so my grandmother had me surprise her and come see her to wish her a happy birthday. And she hadn't seen me since I was, you know, this big. Well, not that big, but that's how it seemed. It was amazing. So music, I always wanted to be a pop star. And this is the thing is, even though I had this organic relationship to sound, I was also very attracted to Hollywood, to the lights, to all of the musical stars. I loved Madonna, and I'm sharing this because you know, I'm being transparent about how they use our gifts and hijack us. And so I wanted to be like Madonna. I wanted to be like, you know, just all these women that I saw doing what I wanted to do. I was tapping into them, tapping into this energy that they had learned how to cultivate and amplify, having no idea what I was doing, not realizing that they were part of a dark agenda. So I grew up singing, I grew up acting like you, Magenta. It was also theater. And in high school, I very much got traumatized around my voice. I had a choir teacher who told me I sang off key. At the time I was competing, I would compete in state tournaments for singing. And I was recognized as being a very highly developed singer, singing classically, having great pitch. My father wasn't in the picture, and so this man became like a father figure. Because of that, I trusted him deeply. And his wounding caused him to want to wound others who were very talented, which is what happens. He targeted me. I trusted him. And he told me, you know, you can't sing, you sing off key. I stopped singing for 2 years. It was so traumatizing because when I stopped singing, I started dying inside. And I also had to go through that because one of the things that I do, and I did for actually when I was living in Texas, Austin, Texas, I taught singing lessons for about 2.5 years at a school, working with people who were terrified to sing. So I had to go through the process of coming in, being this crystal child that was in indigo and, you know, all the ways that were expressed, that was very strong in singing, and then having that be taken away, feeling how traumatizing that was, feeling how it was deactivating, detuning my cellular orchestration and DNA to be something that I was not, and going back through the process of reopening the voice. And I would literally tremble. I would have to look at a wall to sing. And the way that that happened was I moved to New York City to go to acting school rather than pursuing my singing career. It's all perfect, but it ended up being singing. But in the midst of one of my improvisation classes, we had to do something that was very hard for us to do in front of other people. So my teacher said, go home, think of something that is traumatizing for you that you don't want anyone to see you do. Okay, so for me, it was singing. So I stood in front of my class and said, I can't look at you guys. You have to turn around. I'm going to do it. And I faced the wall and was like a shaking leaf, you know, trying to sing to get this out again. And at the end of it, my teacher looked at me and she said, actress, and you're a singer and an actress. Oh,
we lost you there, Nina. Can you repeat what you said? The last thing you said was your teacher looked at you and said,
she said, somebody really effed you up in the head. She said, you're a singer and an actress, not just an actress, and you have a gift. And I don't know what happened to you, but you need to use your voice. And so it was this process of you opening up my voice again, healing, and I started doing one-woman 1940s jazz cabaret shows in New York City. That was how I started singing again. So I really followed this path of how do I make money with my voice, which was kind of what I had to go through. So I was singing on cruise ships, singing jazz, singing in all these cover bands, singing for weddings, getting paid very, very well. And I got tired of singing to drunk people. I got tired of using my voice to amplify chaotic energy. And I also realized that I had a lot of power with my voice, because the voice is a very powerful tool. It can be seductive. It can amplify chaos. It can amplify love. And when you are singing, you're directing the energy in the room. You're directing, it's like you are the trump card of the sound in the room. So I started remembering these abilities of light and sound and healing. And I had always been a channel and psychic. I started connecting more to, wait a second, why do I have this gift? What is this gift for? How can I use this gift to assist humanity? How can I seek back my voice, the voice that was given to me? And I, at that time, left New York City, was directed to Kauai. And when I moved to Kauai, I started singing in light language and speaking in light language, and had a very powerful experience with kahuna, shaman on the island, who heard me doing this and said, do you know who you are? I said, well, sort of, you know? And they said, you're not from here. And I started laughing. I said, well, no, I'm definitely not from here. They said, you're from Lemuria, and you're one of the 7 sisters. You're part Pleiadian. And when you sing and you speak in those tones, you're bridging heaven and earth. You're bringing those codes here through your body. You're helping to create the rainbow bridge. So that has been the journey since then. And in Kauai, I actually made the album that I have now, that I had never released before, that I made about 10 years ago, that was music for star seeds and galactics coming from this realm of 5D New Earth Rising, because I couldn't listen or find the music that I wanted to hear. And I have had experiences recently in the past 2 years that came through a remembrance and a reawakening of the Christ codes in my DNA, very much connected to the Magdalens, of understanding that as a priestess, there's many ways that we are a priestess. And for me, one of those ways is vocally. And it can awaken the golden holy grail of the Kundalini, Christ code, DNA activation. I've experienced some incredible miracles with clients who had physical diseases and issues, and through talking or singing the codes of their soul and resonating at their master key code of orchestration, recreating the harmony in the body from disharmony, those physical ailments went away. So I could go on and on about this, but this has been a huge part of my journey. And I know that we have been detuned as a planet from love to separation, and the orchestra of humanity that sings with all of creation has been created into disharmony. But we have the ability to reharmonize, and we do that by using our voices. And everyone has the ability to do that. And when you sing and you tone, you are unlocking and activating your own divine DNA codes, because our DNA helix is like a harmony of music. We are music in motion. We are either operating in disharmony or harmony. So it's so powerful. And it is, my room is lighting up right now. There's so many sparkles in here, but it is absolutely one of the most powerful things that we can do on the planet at this time, to accelerate, to open up our DNA that is activating our own 5D timeline of future remembrance, rather than continuing to amplify a 3D and 4D timeline. We are that powerful.
Wow, Nina, that's so beautiful. What an amazing, amazing story. And I completely resonate. And that really brings home what the meaning of the word resonate even means, because you're literally resonating within. I definitely agree with the person who said you were Pleiadian and Lemurian. I see both of those in you. And I really see you as a mermaid. And when you were talking, I was thinking mermaid of Lemuria, mermaid of Mu. And I know that these are metaphors, but they have such multidimensional links to aspects that are not quite so metaphoric. They have links to literal incarnations. And the 9 said, Siren of the Sea.
Yeah.
That came through me while you were speaking, and they don't mean siren because I know siren is meant to be something more negative that sort of traps you, but that isn't how the 9 mean it. They mean it of the call of the ocean coming through the waters within the human. So you were definitely born to do what you're doing, and I think it was the same with my father. There was nothing in his parents, his mother, his father were not musical, they were not theatre and acting, all completely unique within him, something he just felt called to do. And he taught himself as a young boy by listening to these singers and then copying them, and eventually going on to be professionally assisted and trained. So very similar story. And obviously it has gone down the line, because my brother pretty much inherited my father's voice, almost identical. He's gone on and done different things than my father did, but he inherited his voice. My sister also had a really, really good voice, and I could sing and carry a tune, and people thought my voice was nice, and some people said it was lovely. But I had a similar thing with my mother, because she was a dancer, my father was an actor and singer, and she had 3 children. So she would repeatedly say to us as kids, to me, you're the actress, and then to my sister, you're the dancer, and you're the singer. And she went on and on. So I grew up thinking, well, I can dance okay, and I can sing okay, but I'm the actress, I'm the one with words. So my mother reinforced that, which was great for me being a channel, but she may have actually dampened down a dancing or singing ability. And kind of the same with my sister went on to be with the Royal Ballet School, and as a prima ballerina, and then on to be a dance teacher, and my brother went on to sing. And so we all did the things that we were talented with. But like you had someone saying things to you when you were young and vulnerable that reduced that down. I think my mother didn't mean to do that, but she kind of placed us in these categories. Obviously, it all works out eventually in the long-term journey, because you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, and so am I. So, Lyndol, what about you? I know it's more musical composition with you, isn't it? And using musical instruments. So please share your story.
Sure, I'm happy to. And that was really interesting hearing that, Nina, your story, and especially how you're able to talk about the magic of music. For me, sometimes words are actually difficult. I have a harder time putting things into words. Sometimes I almost feel like I'm a dog barking when I'm trying to put the things that I'm feeling or understanding, and then I try to bring them into my verbalization. It's one of my least it's one of my weaknesses, I would say. So that was one of the things that brought me to music, was that very much from the time I was a little girl, I felt like it was very difficult to communicate with people around me. And I found music and singing as a way to actually bridge that gap and feel that I could start to express some of the higher ideals without also some of the backlash that I faced, because I was raised in a family, very down to earth, very material. At the time it was the 80s, and it was very materialistic, and the only real music that I knew of was Madonna and Michael Jackson, and for me it was the opposite. Like, I knew I wanted to be nothing like them. I liked their music, but it wasn't for me at all. It seemed actually very like a very tragic life. Even from a little girl, I think I just could see through a lot of illusion. But I was also sort of split at that time when I was young, because there was this part of me that very much wanted to fit in with the world and fit in with my family. There was no musicians, and there was no local musicians. I didn't have any sort of template for music being a pathway that I could take. And at the same time, there was this other part of me, like my soul, that just never left me entirely, even though there was a time when it got so quiet, I really couldn't hear it at all. And I was in music lessons as a girl, but it wasn't, they weren't necessarily inspiring, and I would make up my own songs, and my music teacher would just kind of ignore them. And so it was a lot of like, this whole world was ignored. I had an inner world that was ignored, but it was never completely squashed. And as a 14-year-old, I was very much trying to fit in with the world, but I got acne really bad. And for some reason, this was the thing that kind of started to wake me up, because I think it sort of blocked me from going entirely the direction that I was kind of wanting to fit in and be this beautiful woman, and maybe, if I maybe be an actress. I sort of thought I couldn't do any of those things because of this acne, and instead it made me start reading self-help books and the power of positive thinking, and I fully believed that I could heal my acne, but at the same time I wasn't able to do it. And so that discrepancy really started me on a path of, trying to really, number one, have more compassion for myself and other people, and also to not get entirely pulled into the world. But it wasn't until my early 20s, when I got out of school and was out trying to make a living, that I realized that I needed help, that I was definitely on an awakening timeline. Like I was, this squelched voice was growing in me, and gaining more authority over my life, and it very much pointed me the direction of music. And it was very surprising to me at the time, because it was like, I didn't have any template for musicians. The musicians that I did know seemed the opposite of where I was going, which was, a spiritual path. But it was very clear, like, music is the path for you to follow. So at the time, I was so shy, I couldn't even think about singing in front of anybody at all. So I picked up the keyboard, which is, I had lessons as a girl, so I knew some things, what to do on the keyboard. And I just would sit in my room at night by myself. And I was dating a musician. I had tons of musicians around me, so I was starting to get a template. I was in Austin, and this was, a time when Austin was just blooming with musicians. So I was very much inspired by the musicians around me, but I was so shy, and my self-esteem was so low at that point that I couldn't imagine that I could actually be a musician or an artist. And it probably took me a good 15 years of studying music before I was even comfortable calling myself a musician. I was a mystic first, and music was the tool I was being given as almost like, it felt like a walker or something, or some sort of support system, because it was helping me to bring this inner world out into the world. And it was all very much a slow, it was like a catered process for me personally. It was very personalized how I was to use music, and it was all baby steps. And so I love instrumental music. I'm probably the most attracted to improvisation, and this is where it also kind of crossed over a little bit into like acting improvisation, because what I found was, coming to music from a place of, not getting all the notes right, but instead just sort of being truthful in the moment and playing, what I felt. It was getting me in tune with my intuition. It was teaching me muscles of trust, which is something that for whatever reason, I feel like this life for me is a lot about learning how to really trust. And music was this sort of tangible way to see the progress that I was making. And it was constantly getting me to step out of my comfort zone. And, my self-esteem was raising as I saw that I actually was getting better. And the discipline and the patience that I learned through my practice, it was sort of akin to a meditation practice, but for me, my brain at the time was so active, I was so intellectual. And I would spend hours researching Atlantis and, alternative theories and, dancing Woolly Masters, like the physics of sound. I was studying all these things, but when I was actually out living my life, many of the programs and the patterns were still there. They weren't changing. No matter how much knowledge I got, the practical application of becoming a more loving, compassionate being, I would see that the years were passing, and I wasn't making progress in those areas. So for me, there was something about music being like a measuring stick, and being able to understand that that basically it was about it wasn't just about, you know, intellectualizing things. It was about coming to that 0 point. And I had been so disconnected from that 0 point that that's what actually music did the most for me, was to use it in a way to heal my traumas, to actually write songs or play things from an improvisational place. And you know, it brings me to like the process that I used for Fairy Jam. It's like I'll think about something, or I'll get in tune with an emotion, and then I'll sit down at the keyboard and just play. And it's difficult if you're a perfectionist or you're in your mind at that point. It can really block you from sitting down and just playing through. But what I found was I slowly learned to have the courage and the trust to get out of that and get in tune with my 0 point place, spend, you know, 10 minutes there, and then the next thing I know, blocks, like my life was changing. Like I wasn't in abusive relationships anymore. I was choosing more abundant career choices for myself. I was putting myself in a loving place rather than always just serving other people. Things were actually changing on the outside in my world the more that I did this process work on the inside. And for me, the music, and I will also say visual arts, have been the greatest means for me to be able to do that incredible, I guess some people call it shadow work, some people call it healing, you know, something to bring myself back into harmony. And it's worked. I mean, for me, it's worked. And it's been a very long, slow process. It's not as glamorous as maybe some people's stories are, as far as just instantly becoming awakened. It's been a very long, slow process for me, but it's also been very gratifying, because I think I really appreciate the peace and the love that I'm able to feel on the inside now, knowing that I came from a place that was so anxious and so confused and so scared on the inside. And so that's my journey has been, you know, both as a performer and a composer, but also as somebody who's very, very much wants to help other people use music in this way. So I teach music, and you know, I'm so happy to be here on this forum, because I think it's about inspiring other people. If they're drawn to this, if they feel the inner guidance to come to an instrument, that they trust that, because it can be revealed very slowly over time, and just how important music can be for somebody.
Thank you so much. Honestly, I knew the two of you would have a lovely complementary energy and a complementary story. And even music aside, I think it's really important for other starseeds to witness the great gathering, witness starseeds coming together, listening to them connecting, listening to them talking. But some things came up when you were speaking. Improv was my favorite in drama, because that's the moment of the greatest creativity. Because when you're script learning, script reading, you are really at the beck and call of the director. But when you're doing improv, you're bringing your own creativity out. It's what's in you. And I loved improvisation, and it taught me so much. And I agree with you about life. Life starts to change. The way you are with people, your philosophies, the way you look at life changes when you're continuously being creative in something you love. But when you said about finding it hard to express words, now this is really interesting, because the Nine said to me, this is the absolute epitome of the crystal being, the crystalline aspect. Those that have more of an indigo energy, and I know that you, Nina, do have some, you know, indigo flame about you, but you're very crystal as well. And Lyndol, I see you as incredibly crystal. And the crystal individuals, they're not really here about words and speaking. It is very much about going within and broadcasting the crystal signal like a crystal. You know, when you're with a crystal, it doesn't talk to you. Well, yes, they do, but they broadcast. So they just radiate. And I saw a lot of crystal individuals when I was doing personal sessions, and I found that the thought of them public speaking in front of a large audience was just horrible to them. They were just like, no way, I'm not a speaker. And I remember saying again and again, because the Nine would always tell me, there will come a time when the crystals, even though they're not speakers, they're here to do other things. They're here to radiate that energy and use art and music and different forms of creativity. There will come a time when they will step up and speak, because that's the way they're reaching the other crystals. So I know it's difficult for a crystal individual to be out there talking, and it's much easier for an indigo, because we don't have problems so much with self-esteem issues. Our problems, the indigo problems, I'm indigo, is more too confident, too bolshy, you know, too sort of thinking you're too much ego. You have to tone it down, bring it back, learn humility. That's the other journey. Whereas crystals have an abundance of humility, and they have to learn to balance that and come into confidence. And so that we all become eventually a crystalline indigo balance. So yeah, that's really interesting. The other thing that came through when you were talking is, you were saying about you know, how music's become part of your life. It just becomes part of you, and that you found that the path of music was the path for you. And the Nine was saying to me that there are a huge number of star seeds, more than anyone is aware of, that are on this path of music, especially the younger star seeds that have sort of woken up in the last, you know, 5-10 years. So young star seeds in their early 20s, teenagers and in their early 20s, but older as well. A huge number of star seeds. And when music calls them, it becomes incredibly personal, so that anyone who knows music is their path will feel not only music is my path, they will actually feel music is mine, or rather in not such a possessive way, because it isn't like that. It will be music is me. They will feel that music is them, because it's so incredibly deeply personal, and that there are so many starseeds on that path. And when we move to New Earth Gaia, music will be a huge part of reality. It's interesting how, well, not so much interesting, but it's something to note that I'm not sure if it's the same over in America, but here in the UK, we're being told, when you gather together, you can't play any music, you can't sing, you're not allowed to do anything that is loud, because that means people have to strain to hear you, so they've got to get closer together. So if you go to the bars, the pubs, you're not allowed music playing in the background. If you want to get married and have a wedding, you can get married, but there's no gathering, there's no music. So this is all being taken. So that's interesting. So what I would ask you both, and say thank you to both of you for sharing, because those stories are just amazing. What I'd ask you both is two things really on totally different levels. I mentioned my father. So do you think him singing to my mother when she was pregnant, and him singing every day, has contributed, I mean, obviously I know the answer, but I want to hear what you say, has contributed to my own activation as someone who's in a higher connection, in that communicative connection? And if so, can parents do this for their children? How can they bring music into an unborn baby's life or their children's lives? How can they use music to assist them now? And then switching to a question that is related but entirely different, the whole thing about mask wearing, the rules of masks. How do you feel as singers who have to learn to balance breath and draw breath when you are toning and singing, and using that toning and singing as a DNA activation? How does the whole mask thing sit with you? You know, how is it sort of against the sacred breath? So activation of music for babies, my father with me, children, and the mask thing. Nina, what would you say about that? Or either question, whichever you want to answer.
Well, I see, when we're talking about you and your father, I'm seeing that you had an agreement with your father. And so he came in before you, but you're very connected to each other's journeys. And the codes that were contained in his voice are the same codes contained in your DNA, because, and your mother as well. So she was carrying you, but he was penetrating into the womb with the sound, which were the crystalline tones, reminding you of what you came in this time of becoming from the spirit realm into the human body, because it is absolutely traumatic. So it was an agreement to ensure that Magenta Pixie would indeed be Magenta Pixie and fulfill and play the role that she came here to play as she was growing, that those crystalline tones and codes would be activated. And also, Magenta, I have to tell you that your voice is very much resonant with crystalline tones. When I hear you, I am receiving your resonance. And it is the same with many people. So it doesn't even necessarily have to come through a musical modality. It is that when you speak, it activates codes in me. And yes, what you say is also important, but just you speaking is activating 5D future timeline memory in me, because you have been encoded in that manner. And so many of us have. So yes, it's very beautiful harmonic convergence between you and your father and your mother, and also the ancestral lineages behind that did the same things and that you were a part of, as you chose to continue to come in and to play this role that you've played many, many times.
Yeah, you're quite correct. And I knew about the agreement. I did know about it and was aware of it for a long, long time. And that agreement continues. And I know that it's still there. It hasn't ended. It's even though he's passed away. And we actually reaffirmed those agreements consciously in this life and made contracts. So, you know, we were both aware and able to do that. It's interesting. You should talk about the way my voice is with when I speak, and especially when I do the videos, because obviously I had voice training. My father trained me as well as the training I had from my drama lessons, and you know, he trained me through singing and speaking. So even though I didn't go into singing per se, he still gave me that training. So when I do the videos, the 9 will actually show me certain inflections and certain tones, and because I've had singing training and drama training and projection voice work, I understand what the 9 are asking me to do. So obviously all of that training was never to be a singer or an actress. It was always to be a channel and connect with the 9. But the other day I was with my brother. I went round to my mother's house and my brother was there, and I hadn't seen him for a while, and I'm all excited because you know, I'm with my family and I wanted to talk, and I get very animated. I'm not really like that when I do interviews or when I do the videos, but you know, when I'm with my brother, I'm like, oh, and guess what I read, and blah blah blah, and I'm all like this. And my brother's not like that. He's much more sort of steady. And he said, oh, you know, because he's been on his own and isolated and not around me so much. And he looked at me and he said, talk like you do on the videos. Meaning, like, I want to hear you speak like that. So anyone who knows me outside of the videos and the interviews, I can get very animated. The 9 teach me not to do that, because the voice holds activation keys, as you're picking up. So if I start screeching and raising my voice and talking, that loses that activation. So I'm trained to use my voice in that way and hold that resonance. So it's just funny that my brother said, talk like you do on the videos, please. So yeah, I mean, Lyndol, what do you think about, you know, that sort of question about being able to activate a child before they're born, a child as they're growing up? How can parents use music to do that? And, you know, how does that work? What advice might you have? Or how can people use music and sound to assist them? And I would think in 2 ways, really. One, obviously, activation and ascension. But there are a lot of people right now feeling really confused and suffering and angry because of the whole sort of attempted planetary takeover. You know, how can people use music and toning and sound to assist them with that, would you say?
That's a great question. So first of all, I come from the mindset that all of us can sing. There's a lot of
say that.
I mean, to me, it's kind of like walking. But in the way that we're raised, in our education system, there's an elitist idea that only the talented, you know, should be singing, and everybody else, like, don't hurt anybody's ears with it. But there's so many studies, and it's my own personal experience with my work through students over the last 15 years and my own journey with music, is that it's a self-soothing process to sing. And it doesn't matter what it sounds like. it's how does it feel on your body? It's amazing. Like, for example, when you were talking to me about the crystalline, you know, being sort of resonating ideas, I got full body chills, right? That just showed me truth. My body was saying yes to that. And it's very much why I like to do music, because I can be doing a cover song, but yet from the inside, I'm just feeling this radiation. And I can be in a bar with a bunch of drunk people and nobody is paying attention to me at all, and yet I feel like I'm able to send this wave of just unconditional love or healing, or you know, whatever sort of intuitive feelings I feel like. And even before this lockdown happened, when I was out playing, I was feeling like real, like people were getting desperate. It was things, the energy was getting crazy even before this. And so very much just trying to counter with like a soothing, like unconditional or 0 point, like that place where I know everything is okay, love wins. You know, I can be inside of any song broadcasting that feeling. And so much of the music that children are exposed to these days is actually not coming from a good place. Number one, we have the idea that in the 1940s, we went from the 432 to the 440 tuning. So already our music is more resonating here intellectually. And in a lot of the jazz circles that I was in, I saw that like you want complicated music, but it's kind of all up here, right? And it's not pulling us here. So my advice to parents is, number one, to realize that singing to a child in the womb, or you know, a child of any age, they love it. It's so soothing for them. And if they can, even if the child is old enough, even sing together. This is one of those things that goes, you know, to me, it's like we're in a space where we've got a lot of like right, left, or binary thinking. And music is this thing that somehow merges and transcends both of those things. So incorporating music with your child in any way is going to be important. But if it's live music, I tend to believe that if it's a voice in the same room, a real piano, a real guitar, not necessarily digital, these actually have even more powerful effect to soothe, to you know, just bring a child back to a place of feeling safe and loved. And now if the parent is able to consciously bring in the idea of unconditional love, unconditional acceptance, and sing with that intention, then I believe that that intention gets amplified through the music, you know, that through, and if it's a song that the parent loves, you know, if it's like kind of the parent's body is being activated with chills or just feeling good, and then they're singing to the child, like all of that is just going to be, um, you know, basically just put a nice safety net for the child to feel in a space that they are, you know, safe, that they're loved, that they're connected. I also want to bring in the idea of nature at this point, because one of the things I have found is that if I'm out in nature and I'm singing, it's even more powerful. When I've had students that have blocks, which many students do, like Nina's story, many students have been blocked one way or another. Our education system is not great at helping us unlock our gifts. In many ways, I've watched it as I teach students, you know, some are around the age of between 7 and 10. Some of the students who are the most creative often lose some of their creative ability. They get shut down. They become more intellectual. So when we get out in nature, I feel like without even having to think about it, the singing and the nature kind of opens things back up for us. So if parents can incorporate that too, just, you know, being outdoors, seeing the nature all around you, and just singing whatever you want. You know, they call it playing music for a reason. It should feel like play. It should feel joyful. And so often, especially the adults I work with, it's all here. It's all like, well, it's not the right note I'm singing, or I'm flat, or I'm this, or I don't sound good. And to me, that's not locking into the power of music. The power of music is coming from a more innocent place. The children are already there for the most part. So I think, you know, for the parents to try to connect in with them, maybe using the music will help them to get back to that state of mind with their children, and just be present with their children, you know, be present. But the music music can be such a good way to feel presence with each other, because for an adult like me who learned to be very much in our heads and our minds are always going, we're always thinking, music is a way to sort of focus, bring it in, and to be present, to be in the moment. And working with children, I found that there's nothing they want more than for you to just be present with them, to just be there with them, because so often we're thinking here, thinking there, doing this and that. And so music can be a way, like, especially if somebody has trouble just meditating, like just sitting there for 5 minutes. Like, I'm one of these people, like I go to meditate and I'm asleep, like within 3 minutes. But when but when I'm doing music, it's keeping me, it's kind of keeping me focused. It's keeping my mental faculties with me whilst the other parts can come in. And so that would be what I would say. And I would say that, your father singing to you, I think it's also a testament to how much love he felt for you, and that could just go in so powerfully. Opera singers are some of the most technically proficient singers out there. The things they can do with the human voice are just, I think, we'll be seeing more of that as we evolve. But that is so powerful and so direct. And the part I can speak to is that his love for you just, like a beam to you as you're forming and growing. And so I can very much say that would help you to be in that space of harmonization with your purpose here, as opposed to getting pulled off into distraction or disharmony, like happens to, or in the past happened to a lot of us. I'm hoping for the children, going forward, that we're creating a world where that they won't have to forget themselves to remember, that they will just, always be in harmony. But that's what I could say about that with your father.
Oh, that's lovely. And I hope the same. And I do see that for children. It's interesting because my father was a hypnotherapist as well. So he taught me all the hypnosis side, the psychology side. He was there when I first started channeling. And yet he had all the musical keys and codes that he was delivering when I was younger. And I do remember as a young child, my mother and father bought me this record. I had this little record player, and they bought me this record. I don't know if either of you have heard it, Peter and the Wolf. And it's a classical children's orchestra. So, Peter, and there's all these different animals, and they each have a different sound. And they would say to me, which instrument is that? And that's the glockenspiel, or that's the piano, that's the cello. And then the wolf would come along, and he'd be like the bass, and I would learn to understand the musical instruments and the tones of the musical instruments from the animals. And I remember that very much in my mind, in my memory. So, there was definitely activation there. And I mean, how powerful, just one record, but, it's really stayed with me. But it's interesting because you mentioned the 4/4 into the 4/4 So you've lost me there, because I do feel music is very mathematical, and it has its own language. It has its own code. I do remember my father teaching me FACE in between the lines of the music, and the every good boy or every good girl deserves fruit. And I knew all of that as a child. But obviously the 9 talked to me about mathematical code and toning and sound. So would either of you understand what this means? So the 9 have told me that the emotion of bliss within you, which is the emotion that triggers you into Stargate ascension, into enlightenment, into the light body aspect, that's triggered through a frequency, which is a tone known as the golden mean. But that golden mean tone is also a sound and has a certain, and I think, I don't know, is it megahertz or hertz? It has a certain tone to it. It's the same as a cat's purr. So I'm not mathematical with all the sort of musical terminology, but the bliss, the golden mean, using that aspect, can you tone the golden mean within you when you sing? Nina, what would you say to that?
Yes, you can. So they're absolutely correct. To speak to what Lyndol was sharing, and I feel like Lyndol and I could share a lot together around, I can see we've both been placed in the bars in the snake dens to amplify crystalline energy, and it's not been an easy path. We were both in Austin doing that, and I think we may have been doing that at the same time, actually.
I think it was.
So I feel you, girl. Yes. So as far as the golden meme tone, when we sing, we automatically sing at the 440, right? That was the original tuning. And the root of music, which is now what we hear all the time, so being produced through the radio, anytime they produce, or like jazz. So Hitler, in the time of the Nazis, and I do believe it's possible it happened before Hitler, but my understanding of what I've been shown when I am, channeling about music, and they've been having me learn a lot recently about quantum fields, quantum healing, understanding the light codes, and specifically the timelines of when these hijackings very much occurred, because they very much affected the entire collective, and they are re-triggering that post-traumatic stress disorder within us at this time. And at that time with Hitler became very aware that if the music was tuned to 432, it would take it out of the heart, and the heart is the connection to the golden meme, which is connected to ascension, which is connected to the golden serpentine kundalini energy, which essentially is that, to me, it is the golden pathway home, that is Magdalene Christed pathway to remembrance of one's own divine crowning in connection to being connected to heaven and earth. And so if we're constantly being bombarded by frequencies that are feeding into us a detuning, and it detunes us on all levels, and what it does is it activates, as they've shown me, it activates the reptilian DNA codes. So when we are listening to this music, although we may not be consenting on a conscious level to participate in this, and okay, I'm going to use myself as an example. I was being used, I didn't know this, but as a siren of love, and you're right, Magenta, it's exactly what I've been told. You're a siren, but you're a siren of love. So when you sing, you're bringing through source connection, you're waking up people. I was singing cover music all the time. I was also being used in very sexy bands. And I realized that I was being harvested off of my feminine energy. That siren that I was being used to perpetuate a certain agenda. And how I knew that was that at the end of those concerts, I would be absolutely exhausted and broken and adrenally very much fatigued. So I started understanding that I had to protect myself and set my intention before I went to sing. It didn't mean that I couldn't sing cover songs. It meant that I had to set my intention and say, I will not participate in using my voice to amplify a Illuminati or cabal agenda. And when I'm listening to this music or I'm singing along to it, I'm not amplifying what they created this for. So I will actually see a separate template come out that overrides these types of lower vibrational templates, which is this crystalline template. When I listen to songs on the radio, for example, because the truth is we can't escape it. I go into a grocery store, I'm going to hear the latest pop song. You can't really hide from the 432 tuning. So you have to know how to say, I will not consent to amplifying this music. Instead, when I'm listening to this, what I hear they often do is they program it with heartbreak and codependency, especially as a woman. So as you're listening to this music about, oh my gosh, will you come and save me? Like, I need you, I can't live without you. It's really all about like in love rather than rising in love. So I just say, I'm singing this to Christ, Magdalene, and me. This is my eternal love song to my higher self. And by doing that, I literally change the entire experience. So we have the ability to do that. Also, without singing to notes or like following that route on a keyboard. It's interesting because for me, it's all come through vocal improvisation. I did train classically. I'm an opera singer, but I don't play an instrument. And everyone around me has put pressure on me my whole life to play an instrument. There's a reason I never was meant to play an instrument. Because when I sing naturally, or when I receive songs, they're not coming from a natural 432 harmonic space. They're coming from 430, because that's what my ear is tuned to, which is why I came into this incarnation with the gifts that I came in with. When we sing, we naturally sing at 4:30. So when you are in your meditation or you're toning or you're organically singing, even that pop song, most people don't actually in their own ear sing at 4:32. If they don't have the music just in your own home as you're singing, your own being naturally sings at 4:30. And when you do that, you are connecting to that. What they say is you're connecting to the collective heart song that is connected through each individual, and each individual contains a golden master key, which is a part of that golden meme song of creation, which is the song of ascension and is the orchestral harmonic convergence of ascension, because ascension is actually a awakening of the harmonic convergence from a orchestral convergence that has been playing in disharmony and is ascending upon the musical scale back into harmonization. So it's happening through each of us individually, and collectively we are reharmonizing our collective music together.
Yes, Nina, that's absolutely perfect. Spot on. Exactly. That's really lovely of you to say and bring that information forward, because it's so much in alignment with what the 9 have said. I mean, obviously they don't necessarily talk about singing in the in-depth that you have, but they've spoken to me much about the bliss, the golden mean, that it's a tone, that harmony and harmonics are dimensions, but they're also frequencies, and those frequencies can be found within sound. And obviously it isn't just about singing. You can use all sorts of instruments. Drumming, very, very important as well, to bring that beat in. Lyndol, would you have anything to add to that about the whole sort of changing of, because you first mentioned the changing of the resonance, you know, from one frequency to another, that's clearly been part of the hijacking and been done deliberately. So do you have anything more to add to that?
Yes. So to clarify from the American perspective, what happened was, I believe it was in the 1940s, they had the American Music Association was set up. And I believe even in like the 1920s or just before, they tried to change it. And if I understand correctly, it was at 4:32 and they changed it to 4:40. Now what that means is the A was tuned to that hertz, that exact frequency, which is not a big change. In reality, you're not going to hear it per se unless you're somebody with perfect pitch, which it sounds like Nina is able to hear these things. I don't have perfect pitch. Most people don't have perfect pitch. We're not going to hear the difference. But there's been so many studies as to the effects on the body, and most of them are not being taken very seriously today. But there does seem to have been this effort to go from it being tuned at 4:32 to 4:40. The American Music Association America made that go through, and Fantasia was the first film to be introduced that had the music tuned at that level. And I remember hating Fantasia as a little girl. That was one of the scariest movies to me. And that was, of course, through Disney. Now, you know, you have alternative musicians today that are working in 4:32 because many people claim that it's a more universal frequency, that it brings the whole body into unity. These are all things that I've studied, but I can't advocate per se. It's something that I'm continually, because I've played in 4:40 for the most part. And I've looked into trying to get a piano detuned down to 4:32, and there's, you know, I've looked into some of these efforts, and I'm hoping for my next studio album that I'm able to do that, to tune everything. But at the time, where we're at right now, that's definitely not the music. That's not the mainstream. That's not the norm. You have to go out of your way to try to get it tuned there. And so I've been working with 4:40 as well. And my understanding is just the idea is that the 4:32 would more resonate in our heart space. And by raising it, it goes up more to our intellect. And that's just my general understanding of it. And but it speaks to, there's a lot of things that have happened to music, in the last since the 1940s, that I would say are a lot about programming, a lot about pushing agendas, materialism, being obsessed with romantic relationships. Those are some of the two biggest themes that you see. And as an artist trying to break into the industry, you very much see, the blocks to coming through with material that maybe is off of that. Now, people do make it through with music that I think has really beautiful intention with it. In America, it can make it through to the mainstream, but then often that artist kind of after that, their music goes a certain direction to keep it. So this is one of and also I realized I hadn't answered your question about the mask. And to be honest with you, I've been involved with an organization called Musicians for Musicians long before this lockdown, because we've been seeing a clampdown on live music anyways on the local level. And it's something that for me, I'm hoping to try to start a movement or to get involved with others to promote not only the idea of going local with your vegetables, going local to farms for that, but also go local for your music. Because in my opinion, what I've seen on the local level is much more heart intention music, whether it's at 440 or 432. It's coming more from people here, from their intention, from their love of music. And that to me is the type of powerful music that you want to expose yourself and your children to, and maybe even be part of it. Maybe there's musicians out here that, I can inspire to get, to not give up on the idea of there being a local music scene. And it not being so much about making it on this big level to get your music out there, but taking your career into your own hands so that you can keep your integrity, that you can keep, a real message of love, or whatever it is your individual gift is that you feel you need to broadcast. Because most of these bigger channels for music have been co-opted a long time. And a researcher like Mark Devlin, he really gets into the specifics of that, and you can follow some of those if you're unfamiliar with that concept. But I'm in a place, ever since this happened with the lockdown, I'm actually in New York City, so I've kind of been, once again, I feel like I'm a little bit in the snake den, kind of trying to broadcast, some positive frequency. And it's been everything. I lost all my live gigs, of course, right when this went down, and I've been in my apartment going to what I call like mole music type of mentality. I don't know if you guys have read the children's book Mole Music or have ever heard of it. It's super cute because it's the idea that it's this little mole down in a hole playing his violin, and he's getting better over the years, and he's wishing like, oh, I wish my music could affect the world and create love. And on top of him, like, he has these battles happening, and like, he's actually is affecting the world, but he doesn't even know it. And so that's where I've been, because I'm honestly not sure how to deal with any of this. And I've been processing my own fear and my own traumas that have been triggered through this, trying to stay in my 0 point place. And for me, it's been much more bringing it to a private practice. I've also been doing a lot of online lessons, and so I'm more working one-on-one, which is just another way in which I'm more comfortable. But as far as going forward, I am looking for those open windows. It's far from one consensus over here in the United States right now. We have so many different people feeling so many different ways about what's going on. You wouldn't know that from the mainstream media, but when you're on the ground and you're out talking, you know that there are pockets of people who are not going to let my live music go. There isn't so much of a talk of like no live music because it will promote that, but the idea of choirs, the idea of singing in groups, which to me is one of the most powerful ways to, feel a sense of well-being and connection and create change, that of course is very much suspect. And now that we're having this second wave down in the South, it's it's only just reiterated this idea that we're going to be in this position for another year, year and a half, which to me is just unbearable. So I don't have ready answers yet for how to deal with it, but I don't feel like this is a good, I feel like this has already been done to us in so many ways that maybe this doesn't bother me so much because it was already happening. And this is just now so obvious that our voices in many ways have been squashed, even just from the idea that you have to go through all these channels, to get your music out. And when you really look at those channels, they're not open to the average person. So, and we're also being clamped down on the internet in many ways. So, I don't have the ready answers, but I also know that where there's a will, there's a way. And I personally believe that music is so important that maybe it goes to small chamber concerts, maybe it goes to, outdoor. Maybe we have more outdoor things where things can be spread out. I know Missouri, places like Tennessee, they're having live music even right now with social distancing. So I don't think by any means that live music is going to be conquered or squelched altogether, but how this looks moving forward is part of the like, I would love to talk more with Nina about. It's another idea to get with other artists out there, because I think it's going to be up to us now. I think it's about musicians uniting with each other and working together to keep the music going. And if it has to be over the internet, then that's what we have to do. But personally, the live experience of being in a room or in proximity to instruments or a singer, there is a step down in a way for me personally. So
Yeah, and I think anything that is pro-life, anything that is good for the soul, the human body, the physicality, the spirit, anything that works for growth and expansion and health and ascension, that's what's being attacked. Because
Yes.
the cabal, the so-called controllers, it's an anti-life culture, it's a death culture. And so we're having to find ways to navigate that and still remain within that 0 point flow and continue to move with pro-life, with love, with ascension. And from the perspective of the 9, we're on track. It might not look that way sometimes, but we absolutely are on track. And you're talking about live music. When they first said here in the UK that we can't have music as a backing for weddings and you can't play music in the bars, I was thinking of that film Footloose, in that little village where music is banned and it's the preacher won't allow it, and Kevin Bacon goes in and starts shaking things up, and it's brilliant. And my niece actually has inherited my father's singing voice, and but she's predominantly a dancer, but she's a fantastic singer as well. And she played the lead in Footloose a couple of years ago, live musical, which we went to see her in, which was lovely. So from the point of view of live performance, whether it's music, live bands, whether it's theatre, whatever it is, you can't exchange that for something online. Yes, there is telepathy. Yes, you can find connection. We're doing it now, the 3 of us, but there's something incredibly unique and special about connecting together in person that can't really be replicated. However, we are finding new innovative ways to do this, and I think it's a great idea for you and Nina and other musicians to get together, because it is going to come from us. So the 9 say to me that New Earth is being created now. The new systems of New Earth are coming together, and those individuals who are aware like us, we will find one another, because whatever it is we need, whether it's food, clothing, going out for entertainment, whatever it may be, we're going to be very choosy about where we go, what kind of place we go to, and who we give our money to, who we vote for. So we are all changing in the way that we do things. So we're looking for ethical purchases, sustainable products. We're looking for companies that don't do all the social distancing and the temperature guns, but that are finding innovative ways, like you say, an outdoor venue. In fact, I recently know there was a Glastonbury, there's always a Glastonbury festival on around this time of year, and obviously it was cancelled. I know several friends that had Glastonbury at home with underground, you know, gatherings where there were local live bands playing. So there's a little bit of inside information for the local law enforcement. So yeah, and everybody supported it. You know, I mean, people are banding together, and I'm not just talking about people who are awake at the level that we are. These are people who've just woken up to something. They just know something's not right. I went out yesterday, took my granddaughters for lunch, and there's a huge sign as you walk into the foyer saying, please make sure your children are socially distancing. So we go out into the gardens, and there's a beautiful garden, and that's where we were sitting outdoors in the with the outdoor benches to have our meal. Beautiful, great big fir tree, and all the children were playing. So there's about, I don't know, 10 families with all their children. Not one single family was sticking to the social distancing policy. There was no one saying, come away, don't stand near that child. I allowed my granddaughter to go find her friend who she'd never met before. Within 5 minutes, they're hugging each other. They're running around holding hands. The kids are all playing on the trees. No parent was sticking to social distancing for their children. The staff turned a complete blind eye. So as long as that sign is in the hallway, if they were ever investigated, then they're following their duty, but they're still allowing natural, normal, pro-life activity. And I actually said to one of the parents whose little girl was holding my granddaughter's hand, are you okay with this? And she said, well, yes, of course, they've got to get an immune system. And then the father said, well, you can't make a 4-year-old do social distancing. I said, yes, I quite agree. And I sat there and thought, this is great, you know, that parents they're going to put their children's needs before the sign in the doorway or what the government is saying. So this is already happening in so many different ways. And so with music, with live events, yes, I don't see it being the end of it at all. And when we're looking at New Earth as an established society with a cabal-free, infiltration-free world, music will be absolutely huge and very much a foundation of New Earth. Very much so, because that's the epitome of gathering together. If you look at festivals and gatherings from years ago, they would gather around the campfire and everyone would sing a song or do a dance, or that's how they had entertainment. And then when we moved into more I don't know, Victorian, Edwardian times, then people would sing by the piano. Before there was television, it's been our culture right since the beginning of our known history, and way before that, because Nina, you know, you're a connection of Lemuria and somebody who's worked with toning in a Lemurian lifetime, so that's way before our known history. So this isn't going to go anywhere, but in this interim period we have to navigate, we have to be clever, we have to navigate that system and find ways. So Nina, what do you think about mask wearing regarding it cutting off the breath? And I mean, if it becomes mandatory, it's mandatory in the UK as of the 24th of July in all shops and all stores, and it's already mandatory on all public transport. So, you know, we're finding ways to navigate this. And I recently did a UK goddess roundtable with all of the ladies from the UK to discuss how we're managing to navigate this, but specific to music, to singing, to toning, and the understanding of the importance of breath.
Yes.
How do you feel about masks?
One quick thing I want to say is, Lyndol, thank you for correcting me with the 2 numbers, because the truth is, sometimes me as a crystal, I have a hard time, and I will switch things when it comes to numbers. I can't relate emotionally. To numbers. Mathematics was, we did not go hand in hand. So even in this moment, when it comes to numbers, there's something in me that goes, like, I just don't operate on that level. So anyways.
I'm almost the same way, so that's why I'm not entirely certain I got it right either, but between between the two of us, we probably got it.
Yes, well, if anything, people can look it up, but
right.
The numbers, besides the numbers, this did really happen. They can go find the specific numbers for themselves.
And somebody will probably write that. If anyone knows the correct numbers that we're talking about here, please put that in the comment section for us.
Yes, thank you.
So as far as the masking is concerned, although I do see that this is directly being, and it's an attack on all men and women. What I have really been noticing, because I'm working with mostly women as far as clients are concerned. I'll work with men too, but I get tons and tons of session works with women. Women are always reaching out to me. And there is an awakening of the Magdalens and the priestess energy and the divine feminine that is rising. And that is changing our voices. So we are going through a reactivation of the vocal resonance voice box. And they know that. Because music is going to absolutely transform. And a lot of what's going to be coming in is light language and galactic types of musical singing and music that is coming through. When COVID-19 hit, my ears opened audibly in a way that they've always been opened audibly to the angelic realms, but there was an entirely new opening, and I was hearing 24/7 galactic music. It was the narrative to what was happening on planet Earth. And it was a bit overwhelming because I was hearing this 24/7 music blasting in my ears. And I said, what is happening? They said, this music is downloading you. And when you've been downloaded, the music will, it'll be quieter. You can ask us to turn it down, but it's happening so that you stay connected to the 5D timeline and to the Galactic Alliance and to the star seed music. All the star seeds are waking up right now. I said, okay, so now here we are. So they know that right now we're being activated. Our voices are being activated. And it's not just the voice, the way that we think about the voice. What I see is that the vocal master golden keys, which are a part of the golden meme, those of us that are bringing back the galactic languaging, the cosmic languaging, they do not want that to happen. And that's because when we start speaking and singing in light language, we are activating starseed and crystalline and golden meme DNA codes and deactivating reptilian coding. It's one of the fastest ways to do it. Also, it absolutely obliterates demons. So I've had experience where if I'm in a room and I'm sensing that there is demonic energy or reptilian energy or just even Illuminati cabal energy, I will immediately begin singing. And I sing opera. I just start singing seraphim type toning, and they are out of there so fast. I do it in my dreams too. If I'm being approached by matrix agents, which happens sometimes, I will start singing and they're like, ah, because they can't handle the frequency. It's a high frequency of love. So the reason that this is so important is because if everybody understands the power of their voice and the power to become sovereign in their voice, we will remember that our sovereign voices have a tremendous power. So we're waking up to sovereignty on all levels. And right now we're waking up to sovereignty of our hearts, of our breath, and of our voices. So what do? They tell us to put masks on. So Magenta, I heard what you had suggested. I think that's brilliant. It's what I've been doing when I have to wear a mask. I don't wear a mask. I say I'm exempt for health reasons. But the interesting thing is that as I've been sharing more and more about opening up your voice, opening up, connecting to your DNA light language, connecting to your voice, doing theta downloads, working with clients, I've been getting more attacked. Ha ha ha, this is always how it works. So how it showed up for me is I got attacked in yoga class. I got banned from the yoga studio that I was going to because I breathed too loudly and apparently I was moaning.
No.
And yes, and I'm not like a loud moaner in yoga, everybody. Just to be clear, I've been practicing yoga for 15 years, but when you're in a deep release pose, you should be able to open your mouth and let out sound. And if we can tone and do a collective Om together in class, there's absolutely no reason why I shouldn't be able to, release as I'm doing these poses. But what's interesting is that what was threatening is my moaning. What was not threatening was the man who goes to every class that I've been to, who literally growls aggressively and makes aggressive beast-like sounds through the entire class. It was my feminine sounds that were so threatening that I was told that I was endangering everyone with my germs and that I should not be heard. I should not be heard breathing. So I was like, wow, this is intense. So I sat with it, connected. They said, it's an attack on the divine feminine. It is an absolute attack on the divine feminine sounds that are coming forward through the Magdalene voices that will obliterate the demons. The demons don't like it. And the woman that was running that class, and I'll just be honest, she is hosting demons. It is a snake den. And so they said, you're going to have to understand that when you're invited into a snake den to bring in certain codes. And when I was in the middle of class, what I was told was I started sensing was she was basically psychologically abusing us. The energy shifted. And this is just real stuff that's happening. So I'm going to speak to it. But, you know, this is going to start happening for everyone. You're shopping, you're doing whatever. If you feel all of a sudden the presence of demonic energy, stop and be like, what do I do? And what I was told was, call in Christ, invoke the presence of Christ, bring in the Christed grid. So there I am in downward dog, quietly in my own psychic being, calling in the Christed grid and connecting, you know, this is life. This is what we do. So that night she sent me an email because she knew that something had happened. And there's been many times I've been rejected from places or kicked out of bands or different things because I start claiming it, you know, start doing what I'm told to do. So we have to understand that if we are pushed out of a situation because we say no, because we say that we're sovereign, because we will not conform to the agenda, and that door closes, possibly it means your mission is complete there. Because now what's happened is I was delivered to an entirely new yoga studio. Yeah. They have no issue with me breathing or moaning. And in fact, I got to share this whole story with everyone. And it was very activating on another level. And it opened up a conversation. So what can we do? We can absolutely say, I do not consent to wearing this mask to be quieted. I do not consent to wearing this mask to be disconnected from my breath and my voice. I wear the bandana, and what I say is I am taking down the deep state, and I'm a galactic warrior, and that's what this bandana is. I'm undercover right now, so I'm playing dress up. I did Burning Man a lot, so I feel like I'm at Burning Man or something, you know? So I'm like, that's what I do, and it makes me feel a lot better. And also, when you do not have to be masked, I highly suggest that people start using their voices more than ever. If they're taking away your voice, then it means that is because something is happening to your voice. Whatever they're hijacking is usually exactly what's being activated. So to all of the women right now, oh, this goes so deep too, because it has to do with the fear of being heard, even the fear of allowing pleasure to be heard out of our voices. This is so deep. It's such a deep, deep wound. And it's very much connected to the priestess and the Magdalene energy and being told to be ashamed of the pleasurable sounds that you can make. And those pleasurable sounds are what unlock the heart. Those pleasurable sounds activate your heart. They activate DNA codes. They activate them in other people. Those cooing sounds, those deep moans that come out of you, they are like flowers and gems that are coming out, and they know it. And that's why they're trying. Yeah. And they, by the way, they cannot and they won't. So I just need to say that. One of the things that people can do is you can do this on the phone together. I know a lot of the clients that I have right now, I'm doing a lot of light language and channeling their star language through sound. So I'm doing activations on the phone for people. And then sometimes they'll start start speaking or singing in that with me and remember how to. And then I know that they've been activated and they're going to continue to carry that resonance. So, and in about very soon, I'm moving to Florida. So I'm just sorry to go on here, but I'm going to start a monthly program where it's about specifically assisting everyone to open up their voices, because it is so important. And Lyndol, what you're doing is so important, and we're working on complementary levels. We've both worked with the more mental part of opening up the voice and the vocal technique, but then there's also this part of your returning to your astral sound, reclaiming your star language voice, reconnecting to the light language, to the light codes within you. And as a child, I would do this in my sleep, and they told me, they said, you know, when children are cooing and doing their gaga goo goo, or sometimes speaking in these languages, that's because they came in speaking light language. And so when we hear a child coo or a child doing their gaga gooing, it does something to us. It touches our hearts deeply, because it bypasses the mind. The mind cannot translate light language. So it goes right into the cells, right into the DNA, right into the parasympathetic nervous system, and automatically relaxes it. So it takes you out of fight or flight or post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's exactly what everyone needs right now, because everyone's parasympathetic nervous system is being triggered into a state of trauma right now. So, okay, so pulling it back in, I don't want to take over here, but that was everything that I just had to share, just rushed through.
No, that was really, really interesting. And thank you so much for sharing. The yoga teacher, this is somebody who is presenting fear. And I saw this when I went out for lunch yesterday with the staff as well. This fear of how do we cope in this world that is surrounded by infection, because they don't know what is happening. They don't know the truth of the situation. So, you know, their reality is falling around about them, and they're trying to sort of find some kind of cohesion, and they can't. So that's fear, but also an attack on the divine feminine energy, but also the fifth dimensional frequency, because as you said, making those sounds when you're in yoga, which is completely natural and normal, you're radiating, you're moving the breath through your body as you're doing yoga. So this is the birthing sound, the creative sounds, the sacred orgasm, if you will, everything that you said. There is for the fifth dimensional pathway through the divine feminine. And it's fearful, because anyone who has shadow work to do, or demonic entities, or whichever word you want to use to explain that fear that's locked within them, that they're not able to flow the fear, they're holding it within them. So there's the lack of parasympathetic nervous system activation going on. That's the same thing as having demonic entities, because they can't flow that energy through them, so they're holding on to the fear. So your sounds that are birthing that fifth dimensional key code and the true divine feminine, they don't know what it is, but it's triggering in them more fear than they can cope with on a human level, and within these activations of fear, consciousness, or demonic entity. So that yoga class, you were meant to be there, because any star seed in that vibration of balance and awakening, you're going to be a catalyst, and you're going to be more a catalyst now in this time period than ever, because people need to be catalyzed into the awakening. So you were supposed to be in that yoga class for that session, but you were not supposed to stay there for you. Obviously, you have now moved on into a more harmonious vibration. So thank you for that. That's really, really interesting. And Lyndol, what would you say regarding your music, your sound, the way you work with your creativity, and how would you sort of bring in light language or DNA activation codes, or whatever words you use for that? How do you see your work as being part of that sort of ascension, awakening, activation? I know Nina uses the words light language. Where would you see that with your work?
Well, I think, you know, hearing Nina talk about it, it's something that I'd probably want to explore more and hear, and, you know, learn more from her about that.
Just say Fairy Jam has all of that in it. It's so powerfully abundant with light language and DNA activation. And I think, did you say that it was one of my videos that triggered you into creating Fairy Jam? And Fairy Jam has triggered me into creating more videos. It keys me into but my channeling keyed you into the creation of Fairy Jam. Do you see how we are triggering one another through our higher creativity? That's the new Earth. That's the new Earth.
It's so beautiful, and it's amazing how, you know, as dark as things seem right now, there's such a power in the light. Like, it just moves, and it's so powerful. It's like one small intention can just exponentially change things. And so I would say that I think one of the things that happened for me is that I was so intellectual for a while, trying to understand things, that it actually was a block, because I was always trying to understand it, and it was keeping me in a model of my own control or my own separation. So when I opened up to music, part of that trust is to just know that my intentions are there, that I've done and am continuing to do the work to make sure that I'm not unconsciously under the control of programs, demonic, reptilian, shadow work, you know, clearing those things away. And that way, I think Jen McCarty talks about this on your roundtable, the idea of being an open vessel. You know, I've done the work to try to clear. My heart is so set on the intention of being a conduit of love, to be somebody who's helping to build the new earth, that it doesn't surprise me that I'm not conscious of things that are actually coming through me. And to become conscious, the rest of my life, I want to be a student of these things and understanding, but I also have the trust that I'm conscious of the things I need to be, and other things I'm okay, because I know there's times when I can get in my own way, because I start to understand, and then I still deal and battle with an intellect that wants to come in and control and make it my own agenda. So there might be times that my guides are keeping me, you know, blissfully ignorant, but the intention is so pure. And I put the hours in to train myself to be a conduit on that level. And for Fairy Jam, I had the intention to want to write something for you, something that would complement the videos, because at the time I was feeling such a connection to your videos, and still do. And there's also often a synchronicity that I'll have, a personal synchronicity that I'll have with your work. So I believe that Fairy Jam and the video, I watched several, and it was sort of like that. Everything at the time just lined up and made sense and came through on the level, because I'm often with musicians jamming, and at the time it kind of felt like I was jamming with the fairies. So that's where that came through. So it doesn't surprise me that they're there, but it's also not something that activates my own ego, because I can't get behind it and take the credit for that at that point. And it's something that I'd probably want to study more, and maybe this is an opening and an awakening and a call for me to be a little bit more aware of some of these things. But this is, to me, the power of music. I just don't know anything more powerful than music personally. I come from a family of healers, but not of musicians. But it was clear to me, as a healer and thinking in terms of healing this world, that music was the conduit and the thing to use. And the more that people with positive intentions step up and use it, then the more that we can counter the effects, because there's really been a clamp down and a lockdown to use it for the opposite. But I feel like even one song from pure intention played with maybe even nobody hearing it, maybe the birds heard it, you know, maybe the animals heard it, and it just went out into the grid, that can counter so many of it. There's just something about music, and I don't have the ability to. I do a lot of research on this stuff, but you know, as is it crystal? Is it a crystal child? Is that what we call? Because to be honest with you, I've often thought I was more indigo, and so I haven't done much research on the crystal children.
So your energy, the energy that you present, is very pure and crystal, but this intellect that you are working with, that is your indigo aspect. So as you balance the two, you move into integration, and that's what's happening. So it's not that the intellect is in your way. It feels like that because you can think, get away intellect, I just want to go in the heart, but you are in a state of integration. So you're integrating the mind with the heart, because mind on its own is lost, heart on its own is lost. It has no anchor. The two together bring us into integration, and there are multiple vibrations and tones within that. Indigo and crystal are only two predominant frequencies. There are others. So your energy is crystal, and you present as a crystal personality, but within the mind, the way you think like an indigo, which is quite rare because many crystals will think like a crystal. You think like an indigo, but you have a personality and a vibration of a crystal. That's why you feel in conflict, but that's simply your personal integration, and it's quite rare. I haven't seen that many people with a crystal personality vibration and an indigo intellect, but we are a beautiful sort of spectrum rainbow of all different kinds of vibrations. But that's how I see you anyway, and that's why you're being creative musically, because you need the intellect to do it, because the music is maths. So you're working with that mathematical code, but it's the heart that's bringing it through, I feel.
That's exactly right. And that's so interesting because for me, this is a lifelong journey. So this, I think the opportunity that's been presented with the crazy things going down the last, since March, is the opportunity to go even further into that integration, and me even being here speaking up, it's on your show. I so appreciate it because I think, now is the time that I'm hearing from, so many people, you as well, just now's the time to step up and really do what we can and ignite each other and hold each other up. And it's not always music for people, and I also paint, and I also do other activities, but I do think there's something about being creative that can help us to further our awakening process, to take those next steps on our individual journey, wherever that is. And the creative process, through music is one of the easiest ways I find. And if it's something that people are called to personally to do, if it's something they're interested in, then one of the things that I offer is a free 45-minute consultation online with me, where you can one-on-one talk to me about what your interest is, where you are with music. And many people right now don't necessarily have money to pay for private lessons, though I do offer that online. But in this 45-minute free consultation, I can offer you other resources that are free to help you walk on that journey. Because one thing I found about music for me personally is I never regretted it. It's the one decision that I never regret, I never doubt. Anytime I sit down to the piano, whether it's 5 minutes or 2 hours, a performance, or something I do on my own, there's something about it that always restores me. And so I just want to put that invitation out there for other people, that if they feel a call for this, that now's the time. And if it's something else, now's the time, whatever it is. I'm being so validated today by you ladies that I'm right where I need to be. And I just want to extend that to other people out there as well, that they feel that 5D understanding, that everything that's happened to now got us to here. And that going forward is just, from my perspective, it's filled with the love and the light that we need to walk in peace on this earth and live in a way that many of us felt in the back of our minds in a vague memory, but our experiences have never validated. But I'm starting to feel that validation even from my experiences here, even in the middle of this crazy time period. I can't describe the feelings I have on the inside of love and peace and hopefulness. So thank you so much for, first of all, just even using my Peace Fairy Jam is such an honor and has been such a sense of fulfillment for me, that it was being used in such a way, such a pure intention. And I also want to thank you, now that I can say this to you personally, Magenta Pixie, how much I appreciate your work and your example and your sisterhood. And the final thing to say is that I am one of these people that has had a very hard time getting up the courage to use my voice. And it is something important for all of us, men and women, but I do feel like it's more that feminine energy that's been, quelched. And having the courage to speak up and to say our truth, it just is more important than ever right now. And it doesn't have to be an all at once thing. You can baby step into it, but whatever it is, start to walk that way, start to walk that direction, because I'm having an out of body experience as I'm hearing myself talking on here right now.
I do know what you're saying.
But I just want to say that I know that this is for all of us. All of us have voices to add to this song.
No, I'm very, very honored that you joined us today, and Daniel is so pleased because I know he's chatted with you quite a bit, probably more than you have with me. You've had, well, I don't think we've actually spoken. All of your communication's been with Daniel, and I've got an ambulance going past. He said to me, "Oh, it's lovely that you're hosting Lyndol. I'm so pleased." So yeah, because I know he's had a lot of chats with you, and he's the one that does all the editing, so he's the one that's there with all the music, and he's much more focused with music and art because he's gathering the images, and he's the one who makes the creative aspect of the videos. So the videos that go on YouTube, yes, it's me doing the channeling and the words, but he's the one that puts the images together. So it's a collaboration between us, and I know he's connected with you, and he was really pleased that you were coming on today. So what else? Oh yes, it's really lovely that you offered a free session with you. I think that's amazing. That's such a gift. But I will say that I do have quite high views on my videos, so you could potentially be bombarded with people wanting free sessions with you, which is great, but I don't cope with it. Because I don't know. I mean, it just, I've often done that. I've often put something out and said, oh, if anyone would like this meditation, email me. And I've just got hundreds. And I've had to say to Daniel, look, I've offered that meditation to whoever emails in. So he's had to sit there for 2 days, sending the meditation off. So, but that's what happens when there's a lot of people.
If that happens, I will happily, I will happily figure out a way to deal with that. But I also have faith that the people that feel called to work with me, or feel that I have something to offer, I'll just trust that will all work out.
And you could do a group session anyway with several people at once if you get lots of people that want to talk to you. The other thing I would say is with Fairy Jam, you're talking about not being conscious fully of what's coming through, but that's how it is with me with the channeling, and certainly was in the early days. I would bring information through and I had no real intellectual understanding of what the channeling actually meant, and it was a big leap of faith to actually not only bring that through but deliver it to other people. So you're going through the same thing, which really tells me, using sort of new age terminology, that Fairy Jam is a channeled piece of work. And if that is, then probably is so much all of your work. So you're a channel like me, but you're just bringing forward music instead of words like I am. And with you, Nina, talking about the indigo and the crystal. So with you, Lyndol, it's a crystalline presentation, a crystal personality, but indigo perspective, indigo thoughts. But with you, Nina, you are, I feel, a blend of crystal and indigo within your personality and your thoughts. So it's like, with you, Lyndol, it's in the crystal is the body, the physical, the mind is the indigo. But with you, Nina, you've got both. And with me, I'm kind of indigo. I have to work really hard to find the crystal. Would you kind of agree with that, Nina? And also, would you like to talk about light language and DNA activation through your voice? Because I know that is your speciality.
I would. I do agree with that, very much so. And I also see it as a rebalancing of the Atlantean and the Lemurian aspects.
Yes, it is.
It's divine masculine, divine feminine. I take it as a compliment that you said that, because I think that for a long time I was expressed more as crystalline and I had forgotten about the indigo. So the indigo stepping forth has kind of been a new awakening of me saying, oh yes, I'm also indigo. And it has also happened through a reunion with my divine masculine, and doing the shadow work around the masculine. I had done a lot of it around the feminine, but with the recent divorce situation, it really caused me to look at my own masculine and do that shadow work on an even deeper level. And it has shifted my energy tremendously. So, and now moving to Florida is like very much connected to Atlantis and the ocean and the dolphins.
So many people are moving. So many people are moving.
So many people are moving. So many people are doing this in relationships. And then there will be kind of this, like we're in quarantine, we're in spiritual quarantine and activation. And then I think there's going to be, okay, you two come together here and you go here and you go there. And there's like this amazing realignment happening in the collective orchestra. This is really how I'm seeing it. Okay, so with the light language, I feel that, so what's coming through is that there was a little boy that I met years ago and he did not speak. He was mute. So his parents said to me, is there anything that you can do? And I just sat and looked at him. We were actually, I was around him physically. It was quite amazing because normally I work with people from a distance, but I happened to be near him. And I looked at him and I realized he was speaking to me psychically. And so I was like, oh, okay, he is not used to speaking non-psychically. He doesn't understand why he has to. I totally relate to that. I didn't really, that makes a lot of sense to me. So I started psychically speaking to him and was saying, okay, you're on planet Earth and you've come here, and here we actually speak in this language. And he was like, well, can I have a bridge? Because I don't understand. So they said, speak to him in light language. So I started speaking to him in light language and his eyes got really big and he looked at me and he was like, oh, you're like me. You know, from his mind, he was like, oh, it's safe here. You're like me. And his mother called me the next day and she said, well, he's speaking, but he's speaking in light language, but he is speaking.
Yeah.
So I feel that just in a way that light language can be a bridge, especially when it comes to children that are maybe have come in and are presented as what we would call autistic. I do not align with that label at all, but basically there's aspects of them that didn't fully incarnate in the body, or they're operating on a different level of consciousness, or there can be times when part of the soul is still scattered because they didn't fully integrate into the body. It can help them in actually coming fully into the body. It's the same thing with trauma. So if you have areas in your body that you've experienced a lot of trauma, just by singing or speaking to those areas, and let it begin with a coup, whatever comes naturally through you, because a lot of people say to me, well, I don't know how to speak light language like you, Nina. I don't know how you do what you do. It doesn't need to be complicated. We're using the voice and the tonality as an instrument. And when you do that, you are directing like a laser light beam. You're sort of doing surgery into the field around you, into your own energetic system, and also into those areas where you have stagnant energy, or the energy has become knotted up or disconnected. You are essentially doing light surgery to reharmonize so that things can flow once more and we can come out of this locked state of being. I also, one of my favorite things to do, and the way that I very much remembered, because as a child I did sing and speak in light language in my sleep, but I didn't know that. My mother told me that years later when I called her from Kauai and said, well, I kind of do this thing. I don't know, I kind of do this thing. And she said, oh, you've done that your whole life. You did it as a child in your sleep. I thought you were speaking in Russian, or I didn't know what you were speaking in. But it was being in nature first that I would just naturally start doing this. And it was my own way of communing with all of creation. It was my way of feeling like I could be seen as the starseed or the fairy or the mermaid, so many labels at this point, but just naked in my soul's expression. Because I've never felt fully comfortable with the English language, or any languages really. I've never felt like I could express my emotions and the poetry in my heart through this extremely limited angular vocabulary. I do my best, but I have so much more to say, and I know that we all do. And so when you allow yourself permission to just flow with whatever wants to come through you naturally, without an idea of what light language is or isn't. Because that is the other thing, is we've had a lot of sort of imprints or ideas by hearing someone else's light language that, oh, it needs to sound like this, or it needs to sound like Nina, or it needs to sound like this other person. Let it be yours. Your soul remembers your natural vocal resonance and tonality. I know that we don't have enough time, but I do have on my YouTube channel which is free for everyone, an activation through theta to unlock and to open up your own vocal stargate, because your voice box really is a stargate, and it really does bring through these galactic codes. And what it does is it allows you to embody your galactic self even more so, and to remember who you are in the future 5D timeline. The way that I see this is that we came back from the future. So as I began to live more and more in the future, I understood that my future 5D self, that I would be like, oh, hi, there you are on the new Earth, was directing me on that timeline. And when you sing and speak from that space, you are commanding everything around you to resonate at that frequency. And just like you said, Lyndol, when you started changing the music on the inside, you changed the music on the outside. We really are constantly living our own song. So we have the ability to direct it to be the orchestra of our own life song in each moment. And emotionally, if what you're seeing is happening around you makes you feel like, oh man, the drum has taken over the piano. This is just like I guess she gets it. This is like musician humor. What does that drum represent? Is it aggression? Is it some shadow aspect that's trying to drown out the inner child's voice that is the piano, that's trying to say, I need help, or I need love, or I'm not being seen, or I'm not being heard? So this is how I really feel like we can take music and take light language and bring it back into making it ours. So I just want to apologize. I'm feeling to apologize just on a collective level right now. I'm sorry for anyone who told you to shut your mouth. I'm sorry for anyone who told you to shut up. I'm sorry for anyone who told you you can't sing, or told you you sound like nails on a chalkboard. I'm sorry that this happened to you, that this trauma happened to you. And it's not true. And it's really up to you to reclaim your own voice. And that's what it means to be sovereign. Sovereign in all ways. Sovereign in your own vocal expression. Sovereign in your own breath. Sovereign in allowing that sound to flow through you and resonate through you and flow out of you, to reprint your resonance onto the field around you, to rebuild the matrix of what is existing outside of you. And we do that from the inside.
That's so beautiful. Nina, if you wanted to do a light language activation, you can, if you'd like to, before we, say goodbye. Lyndol, would you like to say anything more before we sort of end our really powerful and lovely session. I absolutely love this. I love this energy between the three of us and this whole musical energy. I'm going to formally dedicate this chat between the three of us to my father, Brian McGuire. He would be so happy that I'm sat talking about music with you two. So I'm going to dedicate this video to him. So Lyndol, did you want to say anything more before we say goodbye? And if you want to do a light language activation, Nina, please do, but don't feel pressured. It's funny you should say about people telling you to shut up, telling you to be quiet, telling you not to sing. With me, it was stop daydreaming, stop looking out the window and get out of your imagination and focus on the real world. So I think the one thing that we did all the time as a child, whether it's singing or dancing or living in your imagination, that's because you knew what your life's purpose was supposed to be. You knew your mission intrinsically. I had to be in the imagination because it was practice for my role. And we were all prevented, and it makes us realize just how long this hijacking has gone on for. It's not just been since March 2020. This has been going on for years and years and years. It's just become far more intense. Yeah, Lyndol, is there anything else you'd like to say before we say goodbye and end our session?
No, I just want to say thank you, ladies, so much. And I'm so excited. I feel like this talk has even opened me up and brought in a whole new level for me. And so I'm just excited for things to come. And I'm excited to, if Nina is up for the light activation, then is that what you say? Light code activation, is that right?
Light language. You can say whatever you like to say.
Yeah, I'm excited for this because I had some things I wanted to say, and then you started talking about the, imprinting around you, and I just felt myself start to go in already, starting to feel something already. So yeah, I'm just excited to end with that, and just want to thank you so much again, Magenta, for having us.
Thank you, Lyndol, for joining us. It's been a real honor. I think light language or language of light is a wide spectrum of different ways of expressing, because language of light to me is more to do with the way that the brain works regarding archetype and metaphor and using symbol. So that's language of light. That's the flame letter dictionary, if you will, or library. But light language is also toning and sound and art. It's there. It's, we could have a whole session talking about art. I know a few amazing artists using color and visual. So it's also connected. So yes, light language would encompass many different expressions. And some people would simply see symbol or speak in, like you did as a child, Nina. And I'm pretty sure I used to do something similar. I'd line up all my dolls and start speaking to them in what I thought was a made-up foreign language. And I know that children do that, but it is about expression and creativity. So, but yes, I'm so pleased you joined us, Lyndol. It's been amazing, and you've been such a beautiful energy to have, that crystalline light that you've got. And, I honor you as an absolute genius because, like I said, Fairy Jam is my favorite backing track out of all my videos. And I've got, I don't know, 400 odd videos, I'm not sure, but it's my favorite and it's beautiful. It's like it's alive, and it touches my heart when I listen to it in a way that very few music has ever done that to me. My father singing, and maybe the odd 80s tune that I was banging out to when I was a kid, but actual inspiration that opens my heart in that way. Fairy Jam is, at the top of the list. It's just stunning. I can't even explain or put into words exactly what is within Fairy Jam, but what I'm getting from the 9 is the activations within there are beyond what I can see. Magenta is not fully aware or cannot explain what's in there. So I don't think you fully know exactly what you're doing when you bring the music through. I don't know, maybe Nina has more of an insight than either of us with that.
I'm so humbled, but yes, thank you.
I'll send you, Nina, when we finish, I'll send you one of the videos with Fairy Jam in. And what I love about it is my voice mingling with Fairy Jam. it
Wow.
complements, and it just does something. It Fairy Jam as a track is enhanced. My voice, I feel, and the codes within my voice are amplified through Fairy Jam, and it's a collaboration. I mean, you, Nina, were saying about me and my father making an agreement. Well, we've made an agreement. Us three made an agreement before we were born.
Oh yeah.
Do this video right now, and you and I, Lyndol, did an agreement for Fairy Jam to be on one of my videos and for me to speak. We made that agreement. That's what we're all doing. These are the positive contracts that we create. These networks of light that are all there prior to our birth, and that we can change while we're here, when we have the ability to move into the 0 point and change everything. So it's so multi-layered, so multifaceted. And what you're saying, Nina, about being from the future and coming back into the past, that's the starseed journey. That's why starseeds are somewhat disorientated when they wake up, because they then think, gosh, this reality is so old-fashioned. It's so old. That's because you are from light years in the future. All the starseeds are from different time zones and spaces and dimensions and planets, but we're all from future pathways, because that's how it works with incarnation. The very first incarnational seed point, the inception point, is a futuristic point. We come back. Time doesn't work in a linear sense in that higher reality. So all the starseeds will be aware of that when they wake up. But Nina, would you like to do a light language activation or not? You don't have to.
Oh, I would love to. It's funny because I was supposed to have a client at 1 and she's gracefully agreed to reschedule, but this is all meant to happen because I feel like I'm also meant to bring through a theta transmission to assist just on this platform for everyone listening. Important to help people open their voices right now. So if that's okay, Magenta, I would love to also bring that through. Is there enough time? Is it okay?
If you two okay to carry on and do that, do we close our eyes, or is there anything we need to do to receive or amplify your light language?
Just being you is amplifying the entire 5D timeline. So you can just, and I say, if you're moved to add anything, sometimes it starts moving people's hands, whatever is coming through. I always trust that. So, okay. So I'm seeing the entire collective of the grid in which all of these beautiful voices are locked in these boxes, and they're like cages. And it is the representation of the caged voice, the caged bird song for the star seeds and the angels and the children of light. It's also very connected to the inner child who was told to shut up or told that they cannot sing. Also seeing the lifetimes in which we have been muzzled, or our voices have been used to further certain agendas, or our voices have been harvested off of. I'm seeing all of the astral altars open, and also the cages, and all of the benevolent angels are coming in right now. The Galactic Federation is coming in right now. All Pleiadians are joining us, and the Hathors are joining us. And we are saying, and you can say out loud, we do not consent to this hijacking any longer of our voices or of our breath. We do not consent to being muzzled, and we do not consent to being told to shut up. We do not consent to being told we cannot make pleasurable sounds or speak or sing in light language. We do not consent to the attempt to hijack our memory of our vocal golden key, which is connected to that golden meme of the heart song of all of creation. And so for everyone listening to this right now, all you need to do is just say yes and give your willingness to receive this contract breaking. So we're going to do this through theta healing. So creator of all that is, it is commanded that all who have these contracts that they made due to the pain or the tremendous harm or the terror from having their voice be attacked, and the fear of speaking the truth, the fear of their soul's resonance penetrating out into the field around them, all of the lifetimes that they were prosecuted, persecuted, the tremendous trauma contained around this, and also in the inner child in this lifetime specifically, it is commanded, creator, that all of these contracts be broken, all of these astral altars be broken. It is commanded that all of these cages in which these voices, these beautiful voices, are caged, that these cages be broken. The walls of these cages around the voice, I'm seeing choke collars, that these choke collars be broken, that these locks around the vocal resonance box be broken, and that the muzzles be broken. I'm also seeing lips being stapled together or sewn together, like the mouths are sewn together and you can't open your mouth and you can't speak your truth. It is commanded that these threads be broken throughout all directions of time and space, and past, present, future, and in all languages. And it is commanded, creator, that all of this be pulled from the collective and from all who agree and give consent, pulled from all levels, pulled from them on the ancestral level, and resolved and restored into the historic level. All soul pieces and soul fragments due to these traumas or these experiences be washed and cleansed in the grace and the waters of the creator, and they be returned to all of these beings and into the collective at this time. It's commanded that all of this becomes unfrozen, awakening now and realigning in the best and highest way, and allowing the voice to be heard freely once more. It is commanded, creator, that all of this happens with grace and ease and without crisis for all. Pulled from their cells, their genetics, their DNA, the emotional, spiritual, physical, astral body, all levels. It's commanded that they feel safe living without all of these contracts, all of these psychic weapons, all of these cages and all of these walls. That all of this be pulled now from all giving their consent, pulled in the best and highest way, for the best and highest, with grace and ease and without crisis. All of this be sent directly to the light of the creator of all that is, as well as all programs and beliefs I can't sing. It's scary to open my voice. It's scary to be musically expressive. I can't remember my light language. Light language is demonic. All these lies, creator, all these false lies, as well as any and all other beliefs and programs, including all the trauma, the tremendous trauma around the disconnection from the voice. Pulling all of this now, creator. Sending all of this to the light, the creator of all that is, never, ever to return, forever and ever. Thank you, creator. It is done, it is done. this now in this moment. Thank you, Creator. Creator, show me. And Creator of all that is, it is commanded now that all receiving, giving their consent to receive, that it be downloaded into their cells, into their genetics, and into their DNA. I know what it feels like to embody and to allow my vocal stargate to open and to sound out my own DNA codes. I know what it feels like to sing or to be musical or musically expressive without fear. I know what it feels like to live without walls around my voice or walls around my breath. I know what it feels like to allow my voice and my light language to be remembered and to be heard and to be expressed with grace and ease and without fear that if I express this, that something bad will happen. I know what it feels like to love my voice. I know what it feels like to see my voice and my voice box and my breath through the Creator's truth, perspective, wisdom, and understanding without the trauma of the past, without the overlays of the past. I know what it feels like to hear my voice through Creator's truth, perspective, wisdom, and understanding, to trust my voice, to trust my soul's light language. I know what it feels like to remember my original soul light language and to feel fearless to sing and to speak it out and to use it in the world around me. I know what it feels like to be a channel for this and to receive it with grace and ease and without fear that something bad will happen. It's safe for me, and I know what it feels like to be reconnected to my heart song in my body and to allow my heart song to be expressed through my voice as connecting to the entire Heartsong golden meme of creation. I am impervious to evil attacking me. I am impervious to evil in all ways, and I am impervious to evil directed at my voice or directed at my breath, directed at my vocal stargate. I know what it feels like to live with an open voice and to live with an open voice and to live with open audio receptors to hear the music of 5D and beyond and to express this through my voice or through my hands as I create sound, light languaging through music, through my movements, through dance. I know what it feels like to see and to remember frequency and light and the power of frequency and light. I know how to see myself in this way. I know how to open up my eyes to be able to read through and to see with Creator's eyes as I see light translated around me into form and to see through the 3D matrix and into the 5D matrix. It's safe for me to have and to use my spiritual sight, my spiritual voice, my spiritual breath. I know what it feels like to feel safe to remember and to express this without fear. It is commanded, Creator, that all of this be downloaded into all listening at this time. Their consent of the yes into their cells, their genetics, and their DNA. That their specific master soul key code of their vocal resonance be reactivated throughout all directions of time and space, past, present, future, and in all languages. Thank you, Creator, with grace and ease for the best and highest, and in the best and highest way always. Thank you, Creator. It is done, it is done, it is done. Creator, show me. We reclaim our voices as galactic beings connected to the heart song of all of creation. It is safe for us to sing our song. It is safe for us to express through our vocal resonance, Stargate. We reclaim our master vocal key codes in connection to the one heart song of all of creation. Hear us now. We will sing our song once more. And the entire Ascension Orchestra will harmonize together. For it is written, it is done. We are complete.
Oh, thank you so much, Nina. Gosh, that was amazing. Changed the energy so much, and wow, I don't have any words for once. Lyndol, have you got any comments about that?
Oh yes, I feel so lucky to that. I feel like that personally unblocked some things for me, and I was remembering things as you were going through, especially even the past few months where I have felt things, and particularly here worse. And this is after years and years of training and singing to open up my voice, and I have been feeling a clamp down the last few months, and it wasn't just, it was like I felt it powerfully in my own body, and then I also felt it on a very like there was a lot of other souls out there that were being released from the same thing. So thank you so much, and absolutely beautiful. Just, I mean, just beautiful. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nina. You're just so powerful, and I feel like I've been in meditation for hours when I've just been sat here listening to you. But if you have a link to your theta healing that you're offering for people, let me have it so I can put it in the description box so people can access that. Well, I hope everybody listening, watching has enjoyed our chat today. I hope they enjoyed your beautiful light language as well. And I hope, you know, people are able to take something away from this conversation, because it's so needed in the creation of New Earth. The music, the toning, and the sharing of love through telepathy and what the 9 call alchemical unification. We're able to unify with one another, and to be able to watch someone sing, make sounds, dance, move with no judgment whatsoever, just openly supporting them in whatever they want to do. That is the world that we need to create, where we honor one another within all forms of creativity. So thank you so much, Lyndol. Thank you so much, Nina, for joining me today. Please stay on. I'll stop recording. We'll say goodbye, but please stay on and we can have a quick chat after I stop recording. But thank you both, and thank you everyone for joining us and watching and listening today, and we'll be back with more videos, more to come. Bye everyone.